Good day, everybody. Good day, teachers. Today, the topic is all about Congress and educational planning. To start, may I introduce myself? I am Sarah Regina Tano, a licensed professional teacher from Dimiag National High School, and I am your reporter for today. To formally start our discussion, let us unlock first the major terms we have based on our title. So we have two major important terms here. First is we have the Congress. Congress is composed of 24 senators and not more than 250, which includes 20% of whom must be a party list representative. The Congress of the Philippines is vested with, Congress of the Philippines. The Congress is vested with legislative power that makes enabling laws in upholding the country. And one of their major concerns is about education. That is why, through Congress, more equal educational opportunities are given and promoted for all. That is why. Next, educational planning. So educational planning is a process that includes identification, development, and implementation of strategies designed to attain efficiently and effectively the educational needs and goals of students and society. That is why congressional and lawmakers' interest is educational planning and management. So the Congress plays an important role in educational planning and presents an analytic probe into the future through an analysis of the Educational Act. Now, what will be the result of the series of analysis done by the Congress? Here are some recommendations. Congressional recommendations on educational planning. By the help of the Congressional Commission on Education by 1991, or what we called EDCOM, they review and assess Philippine educational system. Take note that EDCOM is created by a joint resolution of the 8th Philippine Congress on the 7th of June in 1990. It is composed of 5 congressmen and 5 senators, with chairman headed by the Senate and co-chair from the House, and at that time it was Edgardo J. Angara who became the chair of the EDCOM. To emphasize the contribution of EDCOM led by former Senator Angara, he initiated the establishment of CHED on May 18, 1994. So according to him, we proposed a commission on higher education to deal respectively with the planning, administration, program formulation, and implementation as appropriate of basic education, technical education, and skills training and higher education. Now, did you know? Aside from CHED, the DepEd and TESDA came from the intensive or extensive work and proposal of the Congressional Commission on Education, or the EDCOM, chaired by former Senator Ed Angara back in early 90s. So today, our resolve to constantly build our education solidly rests on these 3 pillars, and CHED makes sure many of us focus on. Back to the EDCOM. A report had been made by the EDCOM, which is called Making Education Work, an Agenda for Reform. It highlights other findings which undertook a far-reaching study into the current status of Philippine education. No? So it focuses on the current status of Philippine education. Now, EDCOM took this opportunity to paint an honest picture which allowed it to draw useful conclusions and thereby provide itself with a good mechanism to make recommendations affecting the entire educational system. Now, speaking of recommendations as a result of planning and coordination, now we're now in planning and coordination. Okay, it is said that it centers to improve the system and process of educational planning and assessment through what we call system coordination. So the first thing is through system coordination, in which those who are responsible in the educational system collaborates on the improvement of the system. Another one is we need co-equal status, in which each participant should be treated equally. And lastly, we need to have integration at the national level, in which what applies to one place must be applied to all. Now, to carry these recommendations, two measures must be placed. And number one of that, first of all, is the educational planning must be improved. So we need to have educational planning to be improved, as well as our communication, or as well as our system of educational statistics, which must be adequate, accuracy, and of high integrity. Thus, now what? They proposed National Education Statistics Office, or what we call NASO, under the National Statistics Office, or what we call NSO, and the Employment Planning Board, or EPB, under the Department of Labor and Employment, to formulate employment plans and policies that will be the basis of the education and manpower plans of CHED and TESDA. Secondly, what we need is to provide sustained coordinative and advisory assistance for both the executive and legislative branches. The heads of the DBE, the CHED, and the TESDA shall constitute a National Council for Education to address the issue of the national education. Every 2 years, the Council shall organize a Secretariat for Multi-Sectoral National Congress on Education, whose conclusion and recommendations shall then serve as the basis of policy, planning, and programming proposals for legislative and executive consideration. So, the Council shall also constitute the Secretariat to assess education periodically. For this purpose, the Council shall call on experts and authorities in various fields of education and be given modest budgets and staff. The education and training systems can be made responsive to nation building if the dynamics of the collective decision-making are sustained. As we have said in the beginning, education is the business of all. However, the author of this topic draws conclusion about the dilemmas we are currently facing now. So there are some problems regarding this. So what's the problem? Now, according to the author of this topic, according to Florencio Arica, the problem here is the lack of coordination between the executive, which is the bureaucracy and Malacanang, and the legislative, which is the Congress. There are too many chiefs, but too little warriors. Next to coordination, as Agapito Loayon adds, is the problem of implementation. Too many laws and legislature, but little efficient execution. Actions, not laws. That is what he emphasizes. And that is all my assigned report is all about. For my educational implication, I must say that just like the Congress, we as teachers should impose rules and regulations in order for us as well as for students to attain our institutional goals, especially if it contributes to the development of a learner as a whole. Based on my experience, our coordinator set up meetings to organize the flow of the educational management within our grade level. Through this meeting, we can do planning, including shared opinions and ideas. The agenda of the meeting usually includes the dilemma we faced in each section, just like what the Congress does. We also review and assess our problems to make new strategies and evaluate to meet the educational needs of our students. From time to time, we always monitor the current status of each student to help them cope up in their struggles. Another, just like the recommendation of EDCOM for the educational system, we as teachers should have coordination, especially in planning and assessment. As an advisor myself, we have to collaborate with our subject teachers to plan ahead of time on how to help the student who performs poorly in most of the subjects. Teamwork is the key in there. Next of this is the co-equal status. We as teachers should avoid biases, right? Treat every learner fair and square. Assess each the way or assist each the way they deserve to. And lastly is the integration in the national level. So, what is implemented in some areas must also be applied in our classroom. We should teach students to be globally competitive and competent. In this manner, we can see the improvement of every child in the educational system. In our cases, as what I have observed, we face the same problem as what Mr. Florencio Arica and Sir Agapito Loayon said. There is a lack of coordination within the system that causes the inferiors to reach their limits, right? There are too many works to do but lack effort. It is easy to say but too little actions. As a team, everybody should play their role to achieve the goals, but it is so frustrating that some have forgotten to listen. That is why we cannot deny the fact that we compare our school to others, right? So we can ask ourselves, what were our lapses? What does the other school has that we don't? Again, we have to consider individually that in order to achieve the desired improvement in the educational system, we need to have coordination, co-equal status treatment, and national integration. By observing that, we as teachers, in our very own little way, we can contribute to the changes in our educational status. Let's make education work. Now, to end my report, I would like to leave a quotation coming from a very famous person. The function of education is to teach one to think intensively and to think critically. But education which stops with efficiency may prove the greatest menace to society. The most dangerous criminal may be the man gifted with reason, but with no morals. That is according to Martin Luther King Jr. I guess that's all for today. So thank you for listening. Goodbye.